Hi. Ever wonder why the God of the Bible has never destroyed his nemesis? Rather than allowing Satan to run wild and ruin his amazing creation. Why didn't Yahweh just kill Satan? Why did he choose rather to kill his own son? Thinking that would fix matters when, at least according to fundamental Christianity, it has not and will not, considering that only a few will be saved. Why doesn't Yahweh end Satan here and now? Well, I've been pondering this, and I've come up with 5 reasons. 1. Satan is not an entity. Initially, Satan was not a particular being at all. The word simply means an adversary. But as happened with other Bible concepts, Satan morphed. Perhaps first he became an angelic being that Yahweh himself used to accomplish his own desires. Somehow with time, Satan became a distinct, powerful being with characteristics that were unseemly, frightening, and worthy of nightmares. He now hates us all and wants nothing more than to drag us off to hell to suffer with him. Yahweh loves killing humans. He has to love it because he does it all the time. If he didn't love it, he, as a God who can choose to do what he wants, wouldn't do it. He drowned pretty much everybody and then killed a bunch of his own people in the wilderness. He had his special people murdering others left and right. Yahweh's irritated if a human being doesn't do exactly what he wants. We humans can't deviate a centimeter to the left or to the right without garnering his wrath. But Satan can ask to tempt people, even bringing pain on us and murdering our children, causing us then to sin and bring on Yahweh's wrath and need to murder us. And Yahweh's like, that's cool, dude. I'm fine with that. Just ask Job if you don't believe me. Yet it never occurs to Yahweh just to kill his enemy and the enemy of his special creation. Of course, the best thing would have been not to have made Satan in the first place, but to fix that, just get rid of him. Well, maybe the reason Yahweh hasn't done that is that Satan isn't a separate entity, but is merely any being that Yahweh works through to create the evil that he wants to create. Number 2, Yahweh doesn't have the power to kill Satan. Something even more amazing happened to Satan along the way as the Bible got written up. He developed the characteristics of a god. Yahweh talks big talk about how he can defeat Satan, but then he never does it. Maybe Yahweh can't kill Satan because Satan is a god too. Again, he has all the attributes of a god. Satan is omniscient. He can look into our hearts and know exactly how to tempt us to do evil. He's omnipresent, always roaming about, seeking people he can devour. If you're a Christian, do you think for 1 minute that Satan is not right there with you at all times? Do you think you can go somewhere he's not? Somewhere he can't tempt you? No. You think he's always with you and always knows what's in your mind. He can read minds. Satan is also omnipotent. The Bible comes right out and says that. 2 Thessalonians 2:9 talks about a being who was coming after the working of Satan with all power. All power. Omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence. That's a God. And it's not just that. Satan can give us diseases and create havoc in our lives. He can give us measles or mumps or polio or cancer. He can even put one of his demons in us and make us commit evil acts against our own will. Now, I know there's a contradiction here in that Yahweh says he is the one who creates evil, but the Bible also gives the credit to Satan. Christians give Satan great honor by claiming these godly attributes for him. They view him as a magnificent being. Yeah, they fear him, but they also fear Yahweh. In granting Satan these qualities, Christians make him a god. But Satan really doesn't know everything, somebody will say. So what? Neither does Jesus. Yet they call him a god. You know what else? Yahweh doesn't know everything. In Genesis 18:20 through 21, we read, "And the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is very great and their sin is very evil, I will go down now and see if their acts are as bad as they seem from the outcry which has come to me. And if they are, I will see." So that perhaps is why Yahweh, who loves killing for any little thing that gets his panties in an uproar, doesn't kill Satan. He can't. But that shouldn't surprise us. Yahweh can't even defend his own people against their enemies if their enemies have iron chariots, at least not all the time. Judges 1:19 through BBE says, "Yahweh was with Judah and drove out the inhabitants of the hill country, for he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron." Poor Yahweh. Number 3, Yahweh needs Satan as a scapegoat. Yahweh needs someone that Christians will blame for all the temptations and all the evil that comes their way. That allows Yahweh to pretend to be good all the time. Satan tempted Eve to eat a piece of fruit. But who made the fruit? Who put it in Eve's face? Who made Satan? Who put Satan in Eve's face? That's right, according to the Bible, it was Yahweh. Then we have the story of Job. Yahweh and Satan were having a little chat, and Yahweh brought up his faithful servant Job. Yahweh was like, "Hey, Satan, have you thought about tempting Job?" And Job was like, "Bro, you've never allowed me to touch him before. What gives?" And Yahweh was like, "Well, I've changed my mind. Give it your best shot. Just don't kill him." And Satan was like, "Well, what about his 10 kids? Can I kill them?" And Yahweh was like, "Oh, sure. They mean nothing to me." Who tempted Job? Sure, Satan did it, but he did it with Yahweh's blessing. And Yahweh's the one who sicked Satan on Job. 1 Chronicles 21:1 says Satan provoked David to number Israel. But 2 Samuel 24:1 says Yahweh was angry and he moved David to number the people. We can rightly assume, I think, that Yahweh told Satan to tempt David. Thus we can blame both of them. Well, except that Satan is under Yahweh's command, so the buck stops at Yahweh. By the way, Yahweh tempted, David sinned, but you know who got punished? Israel. Nice, huh? In Matthew 4:1, we see the Spirit of Yahweh leading Jesus into the wilderness in order for Satan to tempt him. Who tempted Jesus? Satan. Who wanted it to happen and made it happen? The Holy Spirit, or Yahweh. We all know Yahweh said he won't allow people to be tempted above what they're able to bear. That means he will allow them to be tempted up to what they can bear. That means, as we already know, that Satan can tempt only so far as Yahweh has given him permission. And that, dearies, means that Yahweh is the one who's responsible for any temptation that comes your way. He put his stamp of approval on all your temptations. When you're tempted to do evil, you can know that Satan said to Yahweh, "Hey, big brother, you okay if I tempt your faithful servant with such and such this morning?" And you can know that Yahweh nodded his head and replied, "Sure, little bro, go for it." Yahweh tempts people, but he likes to deny it and pretend it's all the doing of the evil Satan. It's a pretty good trick if you're dealing with people who refuse to recognize what you're doing. But it's like when you take something back to Walmart and ask for your money back. If the customer service worker refuses to give it to you, she is the one who stands against you as your adversary. But is she really responsible? No, of course not. She's under orders from someone higher up. And it works the same way with Satan and Yahweh. So why in the world would Yahweh kill Satan even if he could? Satan does Yahweh's dirty work for him. Number 4, the game would end. Who wants to get to the end of the game? Then you can't play any longer. And it's sad. I'm depressed every time I finish a Netflix series. I have to make candy or something to make myself feel better. You have to keep the antagonist alive for the protagonist to have someone to battle so he can play the hero. Yahweh ain't no fool. He has to have some way to entertain himself. And that brings me to number 5. This whole thing is a work of fiction, and we need Satan to make the story interesting for us. All good tales must have conflict and intrigue and a good guy to love and a bad guy to hate. You take away either and the narrative falls flat. The hero, Yahweh, needs a complementary villain, Satan. Therefore, Satan must remain. He's a very important character in the never-ending saga that is the Bible. Just as Yahweh needs to be entertained, his fan club needs it too. As support for this reason, let me ask you some questions. If your neighbor said to you, God put it on my heart to do something, how would you view that? If she said, I was praying this morning and God spoke to me, how would you view it? If she said, I was really sad and I felt the presence of the Lord, I actually felt his hand touch my head, how would you view it? If she said, I saw Jesus in a vision, he told me he's coming in 2024 and I should tell everyone to get ready, how would you view it? You'd take all of that with a grain of salt, wouldn't you? Maybe you'd half believe it, at least some of it. But you certainly wouldn't base your life on it. You wouldn't go preaching it. And you wouldn't be willing to die for it or create a rift in your relationship with your loved ones for it. You wouldn't be willing to burn people for it, nor would you approve of the burning or be willing to shovel the coal. Should your neighbor's declarations be viewed any differently than the words you read in an ancient text that say, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision? If so, why? What is it that makes words written in a foreign language and supposedly spoken to an old man in a kingdom far, far away any more believable than the words your neighbor across the street said? For that matter, why believe the words of Saul of Tarsus, but not the words of Joseph Smith of Sharon of Vermont? What's your answer? Another question. If your neighbor comes to you with a document you know wasn't written before 1900, and the document foretells the Civil War in the United States, and your neighbor claims that her great-grandpa predicted the war, and the names of the leaders, and which group would win, and who would be president afterwards, would you believe the document was really written by her great-grandpa before the war happened? Of course you wouldn't. You'd want proof of that miracle. You wouldn't be gullible enough to believe such nonsense with no proof whatsoever, especially when the document was written after the events occurred. I beg you, use a little bit of the common sense you use with your neighbor and also with Joseph Smith when you read the writings of some old people you never heard of except in the documents they supposedly wrote just because they got compiled into a book. Don't be gullible when you read the book the Roman Empire left for you. And while you're at it, if you could apply that same common sense to all the political and scientific conspiracy theories you hear, that'd be great too. Thank you for watching. Bye.